Hello and welcome back to Two Brunettes in Baltimore.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Tarah.
And welcome back for another episode.
Yeah, we have a
So
special
exciting.
episode for you guys today, a special guest.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
So how was your week, babe?
It was good. We did, well, after last week's pod, we went to we tried going to Mustang Alley, but they were like, we're closing early today. And I was like, jeez.
It's this like really cool old bowling alley. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't even know. How old is it? It
I have
doesn't
no clue.
look like bowling alleys nowadays.
No, yeah. And it's right in Fells Point, so
Yeah.
it's cute.
Yeah. But they were closing, so then we
Yeah.
we went to Top Golf instead.
Yeah. It was fun though.
It was my first time.
Yeah.
It was hard.
It's hard when you
It
first
is.
start. We walk in, she's like, so is it like mini golf?
I was like, it's definitely not. But I was like, wait, what is it again?
But we managed.
I
It
was
was
like,
good.
full golf? I don't know how to golf.
Yeah,
No.
it's like a driving range.
It was fun though. I
but it was
liked the Angry Birds game.
Yeah, that one was fun. But yeah, we did that, and then we went out on Saturday. We
Yes.
went to Maximone for dinner together. and
That
then we
was
went
so
out.
good. And the Spanish music and
Oh
everything.
my gosh, yeah, there was live music.
Such vibes.
Such vibes. What a vibe. And then since then I've just been. Oh, I went to go meet my mom's cousin and his family. So that was really fascinating. They just moved here from Iran. They got their visa. They waited 17 years to get their visa.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was really fascinating. They just got here. I guess they said it was 6 months ago now, but it doesn't feel that long.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
It was really interesting to hear a lot about Iranian culture and growing up as a girl in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter's 26, so she's right around our
wow.
age. She's so nice. She's so pretty and so funny.
Oh.
But
Yeah, what was that like growing up there?
just very different, even down to like, you'd be surprised like hearing the different rules, but you know, people like students, or it's all boys schools and all girls schools. Like you can't be in the same
Oh my gosh.
school at all, like in the same building. You can't have boyfriends. You can't, like, a girl can't walk outside with a man or a boy unless you're married.
Wow. That's
crazy. So like if you're
crazy.
seen with a boy, and the police will come up to you and call your parents, and then you get in way more trouble by your parents.
What?
And it's always the girl gets in trouble, it seems.
Yeah.
But I don't really know. I've never experienced it.
Wasn't there like recently something that like people were like
Yeah, there was like a lot of demonstrations and protests and whatnot.
Yeah.
For the government is just a little out of whack right now, but people are trying to stand up and get things right, and the economy is kind of going south, so they're just trying to like fight for their country, like I guess kind of like we do. But they were also trying. There was like a lot of demonstrations for wearing no hijab.
right, because didn't like a woman she didn't wear one,
and then she got
like
killed and whatnot. But
it's terrible.
I know. But yeah, it was really interesting. And the internet there, like, it's currently really spotty. Like, the government turns it off, so you have to be on VPN to access certain things. But no, like, otherwise very fascinating to hear the different stories. Like, even down to, I mean, like, you can't drink alcohol because it's haram. You can't dance, like, because it's haram. Because it seems like, I was asking my mom about it. Haram means like it's against their god, like it's wrong, it's inappropriate. But I was asking my mom about the dancing thing, and she says, well, it, like, the way she explained it to me so I could understand it was that it almost comes off as like the girl is trying to be flirty, right? And like it's not really what you're doing, but like that's you're not supposed to, because you know, you're supposed to be very conservative and you know.
Yeah.
But it was very fascinating to hear the story.
When did they come here?
6 months ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What do they think about it, like, here?
I was asking their culture shock. So she speaks English, and her mom and dad can understand, but their English is not as good as hers. So it was really fascinating to hear what each person said. But she was really surprised by, like, one thing was her dad came and was in New Jersey, and he had a New Jersey driver's license at the time, and he didn't pay a speeding ticket 30 years ago. So when they went to go get their driver's license in Virginia, they were like, oh, actually, you have to go to court. You have to go to New Jersey and you have to settle this out.
Oh my gosh.
Even though it's been 30 years.
30 years ago.
And it was like a $100 fee. That was it. Like a ticket fee, you know?
Oh my God.
So that was really surprising. Another thing, she was very surprised that there were like gay flags, like pride flags in the church, because you know, it's not like that there.
Yeah.
But she was so happy to see so many different people walking around. Like she was like, oh my God, there's, you know, this culture and this culture.
It is a melting pot.
It literally is. And so she was like, you know, amazed by it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Wow. Where'd you guys get brunch?
They made me Persian food.
Oh.
Spoiled with it.
Yum.
It was so good. Yeah. But yeah, it was really nice. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's fun.
Yeah.
How's work been?
Work is slowing down, but like not really fully yet.
Yeah.
I'm still on a decent amount of projects, but
okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Oh gosh, yeah, you said today you got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, out of nowhere, like I thought I was gonna have a chill day, and then everybody's calling me to get their work done. I was like, jeez.
Oh my gosh.
But it was fine. How was your night shift last night?
It was good. It was actually good. All 4 of my patients were like really sweet.
That's nice.
Like I loved all of them.
Yeah.
I like brought one of them to CAT scan by myself because the like transport sometimes takes forever and they're very backed up. So it just takes too long.
Wait, I found it interesting that in hospitals they do the scans at like random hours in the night for the people who are there overnight.
Yeah, they can like literally whenever. But they were waiting for this scan. It was like put in as stat, but there's so many stat orders that they were literally waiting since like afternoon.
Oh my gosh.
And then I got there and then they were like, the doctor was like, can you call CAT scan to like see if there's an ETA? Like I'll call too, but can you call first so that I'm not bothering them too? I'm like, you just want me to call?
Yeah, right.
And then I ended up just taking her because transport was going to take too long. And I was talking to her and it was funny because that patient, she said that she met her husband in Baltimore because they used to live in the city in Fed Hill. And they were like, do people still go to Mother's for game days?
Like, yeah.
And it was
How
funny.
old is she?
Like 40.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
And then I had some really nice patients, and I got one of my patients a cookie in the middle of the night because she was like wanting chocolate. So I was trying to find chocolate in like a vending machine somewhere, but all the vending machines have like fig bars and like chips, and like there was no chocolate. So I got a chocolate chip cookie from Subway because it's open like 24 hours in the hospital. Sweet. But she was so excited when I brought it in because she was like hungry. She kept asking me for snacks, but we don't really have like things other than like graham crackers and saltines and stuff.
That's so sweet of you.
But it was
what
fun.
A good nurse.
No, it was
you really
fun.
Are the best.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. I'm
no.
gonna pick you up. Wait until you're minors, and then it'll be game over.
Stop. Yeah, it was nice too because it was like just one night on. It's like when it's just one, it's just like. No matter how it goes, you're not back, and it's just like 12 hours. Like I always say, you can do anything for 12 hours.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, that was pretty much it, though. It was good.
Yeah, that's good.
What was your high?
I'd say my high was meeting my mom's family. It was nice to like
that's nice.
See that side of the family and kind of like welcome them here and learn about their experiences.
Yeah. So your mom and everybody else hasn't like met them yet, right?
They've all met each other.
Oh, okay.
Or like my parents have met them
in the past, though.
But it was my first time meeting them. So
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was good.
Nice.
Yeah. Low is probably the weather. I'm shocked that
not the weather again.
I know, guys. Sorry. It's always the weather. But it's cold.
It is.
What happened?
It's cold now, and it's gonna stay like this.
What?
Well, it looks like it is for the next
the week. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. I think it's supposed to warm up though.
Really?
I saw some 70-degree days.
Oh.
Hopefully it doesn't change.
Oh my gosh. Fingers crossed.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your high and low?
High, I guess it was probably the fact that I had like a really good shift last night.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, all 4 of my patients, like I also felt like when it gets super crazy and like you have someone that you're like focused on like all night, it's like you can't be with your other patients as much. But I felt like I was like doing as much as I could for every patient. Like I felt like every patient was getting like my best care last night. So I felt good about that.
That's sweet.
And then, when I left, they all were like really like appreciative and like all 4 of them were just so sweet.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, I really liked them. Like I wouldn't have been mad if I was working the next night. But low, I guess the weather. I mean, I'm just gonna take your
cold. It's cold. Like I don't want to go outside.
No, I don't either. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to get into it now.
I know. We'll get into it. We'll see you guys back in 1 minute.
Yep.
Well, for you guys right now, but we're gonna go bring our guest in here.
Okay, we're back, guys.
She's here.
Hello. I have Carolyn Suero with me, aka Mama Suero, aka my mother and best friend.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here.
We're having her on this week as a guest, just to hear about her life and fun things that
she's gonna tell us all the stories that maybe spill some beans, give us the tea. But
where should we start?
Let's kick it off with day one.
Day one.
Yeah, growing up childhood. You know the deal, siblings.
Yes. Okay, so how was it? Where did you grow up? Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And how was life at that time?
Well, I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because my parents met in New Orleans, actually. My mom, Lauren's grandmother, grew up there. She was a city girl. Yeah. Would ride the streetcar to school and all that good stuff.
I love that.
And so I was born, my brothers were both, I'm the third child, so 2 boys and then me, all born in Baton Rouge. And we moved to Highland Park, New Jersey when I was 3 months old.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So when I say I'm from Louisiana, it's kind of ridiculous because I was only there for 3 months. But my dad had a PhD in economics, and he got a job teaching at Rutgers. So that's what brought us to New Jersey. And Highland Park is the town over from New Brunswick where Rutgers is.
It's a very cute, like small, quaint town, I'd say.
It was the best place to grow up. Like absolutely.
I feel like you knew everybody and everybody just lived in that one little like
the town was like 1 square mile, they say, and you could walk to your schools. And when I was growing up, we didn't even lock our doors a lot of the time.
Awesome.
So we would leave the house with the doors unlocked. So it was, my graduating class was like 130 kids, which I know yours was around that size too, so you can relate. So you pretty much knew everyone. And actually a lot of my classmates stayed in Highland Park and raised their families there, which is like a testament to the kind of town it is. But then when we moved to New Jersey, my sister was born. So there's 4 of us. And you know my sister because she was your teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Mrs. Barker.
Hello, Mrs. Barker.
She needs to be a guest too.
Oh my gosh,
that would be really funny.
Yeah.
So you liked growing up in like a small town. And
I did. It was really nice. We had a main street that ran through the middle of the town, and it was Raritan Avenue, but we called it the Ave or the Avenue. So, if you needed to go to the supermarket or you wanted to go, they had like a couple little boutiques when I was in high school that sold clothing. So I would go, once I started making my own money, I would go and buy myself clothes or whatever. And
that's so fun.
Yeah,
and when my friends and I would hang out, it was just so easy because when we didn't have our licenses yet, you could just so easily get to somebody's house because you could walk everywhere.
So close.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
It was a great town to live in.
Yeah.
Speaking of like working and making your own money, do you want to talk about how you met my dad?
You mean daddy?
No.
Yeah. So, my first job, well, actually I did do some babysitting when I was younger, like when I was 12, 13, 14, whatever. But my first job with a real paycheck was working at Food Town.
Okay.
Which later became Stop and Shop. So I was a cashier and I was 16. And it was back in the days when there were no scanners when you were a cashier. So,
Wait, I don't know those days. What was it?
Yeah. So you would have to each item had a price tag on it.
Okay.
Like in the supermarket.
So you just bizarre. Typed it in?
Yeah. So if it said like $1.29, if it was like milk and it was like you know, I don't even know what milk cost in those days, but let's say it was like, you know, $2.19, you would have to type in $2.19 dairy.
Oh, wow.
You know, for every single
That's so
item.
time consuming.
Yeah, but you would get fast at it once you did it for a while or whatever. So yeah, I never had a scanner like that. That's just not how it was in those days. So anyway, when I was working there, there was this really cute guy who also worked there, and he was a cashier also. And once in a while, I would be right next to him at the cash register, right next to him. And
wait, I need to get an image. So was this like grocery store big, or was it like a tiny little market?
Not as big as the supermarkets are now. Okay. But you know, not tiny, not a little market.
Yeah.
It was the supermarket in town.
Okay,
you know?
got it.
Yeah, and so he would be next to me sometimes, and I had to ask questions a lot because we had a little bit of training. You know, somebody would spend like a couple days with you to show you the ropes, and then you were like on your own. And I remember feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. So I would have to like ask somebody for help, and sometimes he would be right next to me, and I'd say, "Excuse me, what is the number on the, you know, whatever." And he was so nice, and you know, he just always was like, made me feel comfortable, and he helped me, and he had this really big smile, and he was so cute. Like I was like, oh my God, this guy is so cute. So anyway, I went home and I told my mom, and she tells the story to this day that I came home and said, there's this really cute guy at work. And she said she had to go into the supermarket to check him out.
That is so funny. She went. I love it.
Yeah. And
oh my gosh.
And she said, she'll say to this day when she tells the story, she said, so then I had to go in and check him out. And boy, he was cute. She was right. He was cute. So anyway, one day, like at the end of your shift, you would have to take the till, like the drawer that had the money in it, out and go into the, I forget what they called the room where you would count your cash and make sure everything added up correctly. And he was getting off before me, so he took his drawer out and he was walking past my register and he said, I have enough money in this drawer to take you out for dinner tonight. Which was kind of cheesy because it's like, it's not your money. But it was cute. And I was like, oh my God, I think he kind of likes me. So what I did, this is the crazy part, and Lauren can't believe it. I was like, okay, I have to make the first move on this guy.
Oh, really?
So in those days, I don't even know if this exists anymore in any jobs, but we would punch a time clock, like an actual card that you would have to stick the card in when you would come in and out. And I was like, I need to find out his last name. I knew his first name was Felix, but I didn't know his last name.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I can look on his time card and I'll know what his last name is. And so I got his last name, and then
but there's no social media to look him up.
Right. So here's where I make myself sound ancient. I looked him up in the phone book. And I was like, this has to be him or whatever. And no, the crazy thing is he has a lot of family in the town where he grew up with the same last name. So I'm not even really sure how I figured out which number was his. I probably called multiple swearos.
Oh, because is it only the last name? There's no first name in the phone book?
Is there?
No, it's the whole name. It's the name and the address and the phone number and everything.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you did see Felix in there.
No, because it would have been under his parents' name.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was like,
I don't know if I called multiple numbers, but in any case, I got him on the phone. Somebody answered first, and I asked for him, and then they got him on the phone. I don't know if it was one of his sisters or whatever. Yeah, and the funny thing is, there was another Carolyn that worked at the supermarket.
Oh my gosh!
And she worked at like the customer service desk, and she was a little older, you know. And so I said, "Hi, you know, this is Carolyn from Food Town, you know." And he said, which one? And I don't know what I said, how I answered. I guess I said the cashier or whatever. And he told me like later on that he was like, oh, good.
yeah.
He was happy it was that Carolyn or whatever.
That is so funny.
I don't even know what we talked about in that first call, or like, what did I say? Like, oh, hi, I'm calling you because I'm a crazy stalker.
That's so crazy.
I guess shortly after that, he asked me to go to the movies or no, that's not what happened. One day I was getting off of work and he said, do you want to ride home? And I was like, okay. Cause it was like dark out and I would walk like to and from work because I could, it was really close but it was dark. And I didn't feel the slightest bit like scared, like, oh, this guy's I'm going to go in his car. I felt like so comfortable with him. I don't know why. But
he just gave off those vibes.
Yeah, I just felt really safe and like it was fine. And so anyway, when I got in the car and he was like, well, would you like to do something instead or whatever? And I was like, yeah. So we ended up going to the movies.
Oh, do you remember what movie you saw?
We saw Fright Night. So it was like a horror movie. I tell you, I didn't watch any of the movie because I think I was so nervous. Plus, there was a little kissing that went.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So that was your first kiss? Was at that first date?
Well, our first kiss, not
mine. No, I know.
Yeah, that was our first kiss.
When was your first kiss?
My first kiss. Now I'm getting paybacks because that was my question in the last podcast.
It was her question in that pod.
My first kiss was, well, technically, I related to what you said because you said it was like
kindergarten. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was this boy that lived around the corner from us, and actually, I'm still friends with him. And my son Evan knows him because he's in like filmmaking, and Evan has worked with him on some films.
It was him?
Yeah. I was like
Lauren's
5.
like, oh no,
that's funny.
I was like 5, and yeah, and it's funny because I went to one of his movie premieres, and he got up at the end like thanking all his family and friends that were there or whatever, and I had no idea he was going to do this, but he's like, I have some people here that from Highland Park that I grew up with or whatever. Even the girl that I had my first kiss with. He said that? That is so funny. I was like, oh my God. But
that's hilarious.
I don't really remember it too well. Like you were saying, you didn't really remember, but I know it happened.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I don't think I had like a kiss in kindergarten or anything like that.
He also told me there was no Santa. So, he was
rude.
He was a little,
Santa's real. So rude.
Mischievous. But my real first kiss with a boy that I liked was when I was 13.
Okay.
And I was about to say his first and last name. Let's just say his name was Mike. And we were in the park. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were making up a different name.
We were in the park. There was a park that was really close to my house, that you could walk to. And I don't know, I guess we decided to meet there or something. And we were sitting in this gazebo or something, on a picnic table. And I don't even know what we were talking about or whatever, but he said, do you mind if I French kiss you?
Oh, yes! You did. So funny. You did tell me
and
this.
I was like, even at that age, I was like, you're not supposed to ask.
Yeah, especially saying
go for it.
Yeah. Especially with the word French in it.
I mean, do you mind if I?
French I guess in today's day, it is a good idea if you ask.
Yeah.
But it was just it made me
if the vibes are right and you can tell, you
don't have
to
ask.
Yeah. I remember just feeling like, oh, that's so awkward. But we both had braces and it was just it was rough.
That's funny.
So when you guys were younger, because Lauren and I were talking about in the last podcast, it was a big deal to give a hug.
Yes.
To a boy or something. Was it the same? It was a huge deal. Our friends would kind of be backing us up and making it happen more for us.
And once it happened, it was oh my God, you did it.
Yeah, it was you guys
a milestone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even when I was even older than that, even when I met Daddy, I would say the first time you hug somebody, especially if you really you get those butterflies.
Yeah.
It's
that
physical, you're actually oh my God, I just touched him.
No, Alex texted me when she was listening, and she was not the shout out of the hug with, and then she put the boy from middle school's name.
That
and
is
I was
so funny.
Oh my God, because there was 2 that she hugged, and she was which one were you talking about?
You were oh,
but yeah, that's I love hearing about you and Daddy. Let me say that, my dad.
It was even though I was so young, and it was definitely head over heels, falling for somebody.
And it's
this story makes me want to fall in love again.
I wish I could relive that feeling because it was just so magical.
It's also amazing that you're together like after all these years and like you met so young, and that's just.
Yeah, it's like I would tell my kids when they were younger, like, yes, we met when we were so young or whatever, but it doesn't always work out for people. Like, we're the anomaly for that, but
me.
Yeah.
But it and we did have a little hiatus.
Yeah.
He's not gonna like this part.
There was a hiatus.
There was a hiatus. It was
for
about
like a
year. He's actually the one who made the hiatus happen. He broke my heart.
Oh,
big time.
Oh no.
Does he regret it?
Yeah.
Yes and no. I think he feels bad that I was so heartbroken. But then when we start talking about what happened during the hiatus, he gets mad and he says, not so because of course we both dated during that time.
Yeah.
So it was my whole senior year of high school that we worked together. And so,
and are you guys the same age or different?
No, he's 4 years older than
me. Okay.
which was
older
also,
man.
Yeah. It's always got to be an older man.
But you said that he thought you were young or older, and you thought he was younger.
Yeah, I don't remember really thinking like, how old is this guy? Like, for whatever reason, I don't think I was really that concerned one way or the other, but he thought I was older than I was.
Yeah.
And a lot of people used to say that to me, like my friend Jessica, my best friend from college, and we're still friends today. She used to joke around and say, you were like born 40. Because my friends were older, always, like,
you've always been really mature, too.
Well,
I've only known you as an adult and my mother, but, like, from what I hear, like, you were.
Yeah, so I think, we were compatible, even though we were that was a pretty big age difference. And in today's world, that would just be pretty scandalous, like a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old.
So you were talking about, like, how you didn't really feel that age difference with Daddy, right? Like, you just didn't, because you felt, pretty mature.
It sounds like a big age difference, and it is, but I don't know. I guess it's girls mature faster than boys.
That is definitely true.
And also, like, it's not a big age difference when you're an adult. It's only when you're younger, really.
Right. And so as time went on, we got a little older. It was less pronounced, and obviously now it's an ideal age difference. It's great.
Ideal.
It is his birthday, isn't it?
It is.
So my mom sent me the Facebook post that you posted today, and I was like, oh, she's still so in love with him. How sweet. I love it. You speak so highly of him all the time.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
He's
you guys are really made for each other.
Seriously.
Yeah. I was talking about you guys to people at work, because I was like, my mom's visiting and whatever, and I was telling a couple of people at work about, like, his situation with the being in the wheelchair and, like, everything, like, because night shift, you just get deep with people randomly, and you're like, wait, what am I saying? And, like, one of the techs at work was like, oh, wow, like, are they still together? How many, like, years have they been together? And I thought about it, and I was like, it's 30 this month.
Yeah.
30 years.
We'll be celebrating our 30th anniversary on May 29th.
That's so
wedding anniversary?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So then how soon after you guys were, like, dating? When did you guys get married?
We got married when I was 24 and he was 28. So, I mean, that's a pretty long time to date.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I just thought of this right now, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but at that time I worked with a family. I did respite with this little boy who was on the spectrum. And his mom was a social worker, and she did, like, marriage counseling and stuff like that. And she said to me one time, I was working for them when I was like 22 or something. I was still in college. It was before I graduated. And she was like, well, they say the 7-year itch, like, if you're not if you're not engaged or married after 7 years, it's usually not a good sign. I remember her saying that to me.
No.
And it was at that time, I guess, what's the math on that then?
So
that would have been like
8
6
years. At that time.
At that time, I guess.
How old were you at that time?
I think she was saying it to me when I was around 21 or 22, something like that. But
so 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, and I was like, oh boy.
So you got married like 8 years after you met, I guess.
Yeah. And so, and then we had Evan, we got married in May. and I got pregnant in December.
Okay.
Yeah, December, because I told him, I broke the news to him on New Year's Eve.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah,
it was New Year's.
I had a feeling that I was pregnant, and I went and bought a home pregnancy test, and it was like during the middle of the workday I took the test.
Yeah.
And then I waited for him to come home, and I had a card. It was like a New Year's card, and I was like, oh, I got you like a little something for New Year's or whatever, and I gave it to him.
Oh,
I don't know what I wrote in it, but I think I said something like, this year is going to be whatever, like just a really unique year. And he was so happy.
Oh, I love it.
I cried.
Yeah.
And they were fearful tears, not happy.
Yeah.
Like, I was so scared because
I was gonna ask you, like, what is that feeling like right when you find out like you're pregnant? And like, do you feel like your life flashes before your eyes?
A little bit, yeah. So my experience was really different with both times. Like the two different times I found out I was pregnant. The first time, we weren't exactly planning to get pregnant that early. We weren't like trying not to, but it was like 7 months after we got married, we got pregnant. It was like, I don't know if I'm ready to do this yet. You know? It was scary. And I remember my friend Jessica, the same one that said that I've always been like, I'm 40 or whatever. I was on the phone with her and I was like, oh my God, I'm scared. And she said, you know, there are a lot of surprises in life, but this is a good one. Like, you know, basically get over yourself. You'll be fine. And then I was fine. I was really excited. But then when I found out I was pregnant with Lauren, we were going through like fertility challenges. So it was like, when I found out, I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
You know? It was like we were just dying.
Because you guys were trying for like years, right?
Yeah, like we were ready to have another child when Evan was like 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we didn't have, they're 6 years apart. So it was a long time.
Yeah.
So, but it was so exciting.
We're 2 miracle babies.
So fun. Yeah. And we're just so fortunate because they're the best kids.
You guys are the best parents, though. Like really, like I feel like so lucky just to grow up with like the most amazing family, and like I don't know, I just never have had to worry about anything, or it's nice. Are you gonna cry?
I think you have that same thing too.
I do. I always say like we have a very similar family life. And when I got to meet you guys all at Tortugas and we went to dinner, I told I literally sat down and talked to my parents for like an hour. It's like we are just 2 lucky girls to have such amazing parents, and parents who really cultivate a really good family life.
Yes.
And take care of us and make sure that we're going to be okay, and you know, brought us up to be very young, amazing professionals. Yeah. But it's amazing.
Like, am I gonna cry?
No, right? and I feel like for us, like our best friends are our moms.
Yes.
And not everybody gets that experience, but to have a mom who's your best friend is
my God, what? I never thought I'd tear up on the pod. No, literally though.
Like, it's amazing.
It's the best thing in the world.
But you know what's so special is that you both recognize that.
Yeah.
Like you're young and to have that that appreciation, like you both said in the last episode, that you had great childhoods.
Yeah,
we did.
Like we couldn't pick a memory.
No.
Yeah.
Right?
And,
like there's
I think
just the whole thing.
Some people don't come to that realization until they're 30, 40 and older. Like
when their parents are older.
Right. And or sometimes what makes people realize it is when they're you have your own children.
Yeah.
So like sometimes people don't appreciate their parents until you become a parent yourself. But it's so nice that you both have that level of just appreciation.
Yeah. It really just like family is the most important thing to me, and I feel like that is just it's just kind of what leads me to like everything I do in life. I feel like I don't know.
I mean, if there was one thing that we tried to instill in our kids, and I think your parents did the same to you, is like nothing in life matters more than your relationships.
Yeah.
Like your friends, your family, like, yes, a job is important and it's a means to an end. You have to have it in order to survive. And you're lucky if you do something you love. And, you know, there's all kinds of other things in life that bring value to your life, but your relationships are the most important thing, you know?
Right.
And so if you don't put time into those relationships and like treat them as valuable, then like, what are you doing? Why are we here?
Point?
What's the point of life, you know? And so like, I'm proud of my kids because of what they've become and what they've achieved in their lives in terms of jobs and school and all those things. But that's secondary to like my pride for them in terms of what they know about life and the things they
But we
value.
just learned that from you guys. Like,
Yeah,
you
I was
guys were
gonna say,
such role models
right.
for us.
Like, did you feel like you were teaching lessons being a mom, or were you just trying to, you know, act it out, like present it, be a leader by showing?
I think when your kids are younger, you're so caught up in the day-to-day craziness. Like you're sleep deprived and you're running from, you know, point A to point B constantly, and you're, you know, getting your career off the ground, and you're trying to make ends meet and pay bills, and your car breaks down, and so you're not really making like necessarily like conscious lessons, like a conscious effort to give lessons, but you are role modeling throughout your whole life, like
without
as you
realizing
raise your kids.
it.
Like your kids are looking to you, and they're going to pick up on the good, bad, and the ugly. So you have to kind of be aware. When you get older, like when your kids get older and they get to a point where they start to ask questions, like why is this, and why is, you know, then you can start to impart those lessons, because you could take a step back and actually have a conversation. You're not like, we got to get to soccer, we got to get to dance, you know, or whatever. But we had a lot of our longest best talks on the way to those things. Like
that's true. Dance competitions and everything.
How was it being a dance mom? What was your experience?
I loved it. Like some I know, like there's this sort of like, what's the word? Just
stigma.
Stigma of like the dance mom who's just like almost like a stage mom.
Just that's not you.
That
you were just like there and you were so helpful.
I just loved to watch Lauren dance. I loved it so much.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
I know I'm biased, but I just felt like she was such a beautiful dancer. And I just loved it so much. And I know I'm biased, but I also think it's a fact.
And it was always so nice because my dad would go to like everything, and that is not like most of the dads like didn't really go. Like
that is so sweet.
You only saw like the few dads that were like consistent.
He went to every
dance competitions are hard to go to because you're there for so
all
long,
day,
waiting,
like Friday, Saturday,
waiting,
Sunday.
Yeah, we both liked it. You know, we would watch the dances and kind of, you know, size up the competition.
Oh, that was fun. I missed that time. So what was it like having a daughter doing dance, raising a daughter versus raising a son, like with everything that Evan had in his life?
Evan was, you know, you were two very different kids, like very different personalities. You know, he was the one who, you know, he would want to come and sleep in our bed at night because he would be scared, and he would, he was very rambunctious. Like they say, boys are like a little more hyper. Like he was always like bouncing off the walls. We would go to a restaurant and he would just not be able to sit still, and you know, we would have to like bribe him with the food and stuff like that to sit still. So, you know, and we were younger and inexperienced and tired and all those things. By the time you came around, we had it down. Yeah. You know? and Evan was really great too, because the one nice thing about having the age difference between the two kids was that he was old enough to like, he would hold you and he would
you should
play with you.
Tell the story of what he said when I was born.
Oh yeah, so when I was still in the hospital after she was born, Felix went home. You know, it was like after she was born and I was all settled in the room and I was going to go to sleep or whatever. He went home and he said, okay, I'll be back in the morning. I'll bring Evan. Turns out he had pink eye that day.
Oh, Evan did?
Yeah.
Oh.
And the pediatrician was coming in to see you because they come in to see the newborn baby and check the baby over. Oh, you know that. And I was like, I think we called her and we said, since you're coming to see the baby, can you also take a look at Evan because we think he has pink eye.
Yeah.
You know, and it was this whole thing. But anyway, he had pink eye, I think the first day he came. Maybe it wasn't the first day he came. It might have been the day I was going home. So it might have been like the next day. In any case, when he came and he met Lauren, he sat in the chair in the hospital room and we let him hold her. And we have it on video and we tease him about it. We imitate him to this day. He said, I love this baby.
Oh,
and
so
now Evan's having his own baby.
I know, how crazy.
So what is that like? Feeling like
becoming a grandma.
I was talking about this with my coworkers last
Yeah.
night. I don't know why we were getting deep during work, but this was like 2 a.m. in the lull of night shift.
Yeah.
And they were like, because the one tech is a grandmother, and she was like, there's nothing that compares to the love for like a grandchild, like because it's like your child who you love so much is having their own, like I can't even,
right,
that must be crazy for you.
People say that a lot, like because I have a couple of coworkers that have grandchildren already or just friends or whatever, and they say that and I can't quite understand it yet. And I know that it's just like I didn't understand the love of your own child until I had one. And I'll say to Evan now and Kayla, you know,
you won't even
just wait. You guys are really in for something, you know, like you just don't even know. And people say that to you before you have your own children. And then once you do, you realize it. And I realize that it's going to be the same sort of thing with the grandchild. I'll say stuff about the baby all the time, like to my husband, and he'll be like, you do realize it's not your baby, right? This is their child. I'm like,
but it is.
Yeah. I feel like mothers always have the motherly instinct though.
Also,
no matter
just
what.
like they just were talking about this on Giggly Squad, how like moms just know everything. Like literally, like to this day, if anything comes up and I'm like, I have a question about it, or I'm like anxious or stressed, I just call you and you like give me the answer, your opinion, or you just say like, yeah, like you're gonna be fine, or I agree, and I'm like, okay, I'm fine now. Yeah. But only after you say it. Even if I know something in the back of my mind, I'm like, let me like double check with my mom.
Yeah.
You know,
very true.
Crazy. What's funny about that? I know you said like women have like the motherly instinct or whatever. I think when you first become a mom, it's I use the saying a lot in like work and different things in life, fake it till you make it.
True.
And it really is fake it till you make it when you first become a parent, because you have no idea what you're doing. I mean, I had my mother nearby, so I had her support like, so, but you're just figuring stuff out as you go along. So I'm glad that, you know, it looked like it was
legit. It worked out.
Like
still
I know
legit.
I feel like I know what I'm doing now, but it took a long time.
No, you definitely do. It's crazy to me. I can't even imagine what it's like being like a mom. But I'm like,
and also as a mom, there's so many stages, like from newborn to toddler, like then they're growing up as kids, and then teenager, I feel like is a whole nother thing. Yeah. And then you become a young adult, and you know where we're at now.
I know.
Yeah, you know,
it's crazy.
People always say, and you guys know this to some degree in your young lives too, that time goes so fast, right?
It's flying by.
Yes. Right. Like how quickly college went and things like that. But people, you know, when I first had my kids, people would say, enjoy it now because you're going to blink and they're going to be adults and out of the house or whatever. It's so true. Like when you're in the midst of it and you're sleep deprived and your kid is not going to sleep and they're crying and they're, you know, and you're exhausted because you're working and trying to you're thinking, I can't do this another day. Sometimes you get to that point, but then all of a sudden you're like, can I have it back? You know? And I remember when I was first working, where I work now, I've been there almost 24 years. And when I first started working there was a woman that I worked with who was older than me, and her kids were like in their 20s. And but my kids were young. Like, you weren't even born yet when I started working there. And she saw me doing the running around and the driving and carpooling and all that stuff. And she was like, just enjoy it now because you're going to miss it one day. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to miss this.
That's funny.
But now I get it. You know, but I mean, I wouldn't trade for the world that like my kids have both, you know, grown into independent human beings.
Right.
You know, and they have lives of their own. And
I think a good kind of segue is like you were talking about work. We kind of start getting into like what you do for a living and everything. And
sure.
I don't know. I know you're always working, so I don't know if you want to talk more about work.
No. I mean, so I work in nonprofit leadership. I've been in basically the same field since I graduated college. Actually since before I graduated college. So I mentioned earlier that I was doing respite before I graduated with a
What is respite?
Respite is just like, you know, literally it means like a break. So it's a more professional way to refer to like babysitting for a child. In this case, it was a child. I started working with that boy actually when he was 6 months old. And I was 14. I was in high school. And it was just a regular babysitting job. They didn't know at that time that he was on the spectrum. You know, he was just developing. And in fact, I think when he got to be like 18 months, he had some words. He was developing, you know, typically. And then by the time he was like 2.5, he stopped speaking, you know.
Oh, interesting.
And all of that. So when I was in college, his mom reached out to me and she said, you know, this is what's going on. Would you be willing to come and do some respite with him? And I was like, yeah. So I did that. And then I was studying psychology and I was looking for a job that was relevant to what I was studying. And then I started working in a group home with adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I had a little experience with this babysitting job, respite, as he got older. And I mean, that's what I've been doing ever since. I mean, I've worked my way up in the field. You know, I did direct care. I was a manager of a group home when I first graduated. When I first graduated college, I was 22 years old. I was the manager of a group home and supervising like a staff of like maybe 15.
That's crazy.
And it was totally crazy. Talk about fake it till you make it.
Seriously.
I was supervising people that were older than me, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I guess I figured it out. And every job I've had in life, even mom, I've just tried to do my best, you know, and that's what I did. I just gave it my all. And I kind of moved my way up. In that first agency that I started at, I was assistant director, then director, and then I left and went to the agency that I'm at now. So I really have only worked at 2 companies my whole career, like 8 years at one and now almost 24 at the next. And now I'm my position is vice president of admissions and development. So I do like admissions and fundraising.
You do so much. Like this woman is literally working like 24/7.
A superhero.
Yeah.
I
feel like you know when to take breaks now, but like it's just you do a lot. Like your job is so much more than anyone I feel like could even know. Like I feel like you do like so many different things. It's not just like one thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a
and you
hard
supervise
field.
People, which is hard too.
Right. Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenging field because we're always sort of like fighting for funding and you know and just the nature of what we do is difficult because we're dealing with human lives and families that love these people and you know and all of that. But yeah, I mean it's interesting because I had no idea when I got into the field of disabilities that disability would impact my own family at one point.
Yeah.
It's a different type of disability, but nonetheless, like it's interesting how that happened.
Yeah, because you didn't even know.
But I mean, everybody at some point is going to have something, right?
And
yeah.
Like I forget who said this to me one time, but like the phrase that everybody's only temporarily abled We're all going to have a disability of some sort in our lives.
At some
point. Hopefully it will be, something that we can cope well with. But yeah, so anyway, that's kind of
interesting.
That was a good explanation though. I
feel like
of
I'm
everything.
like this,
watching tennis or something. So you were saying how you never know when disability is going to affect your own family, and I know that your husband and your dad has gone through some things. Do you want to touch on it a little bit and give us a little backstory and what it was like, kind of becoming caregiver and taking care of your husband, because it's been years. And so, and I'm sure it's been a journey and different feelings and things going on through the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so when we were first dating, I remember we went to this, I don't know if I ever even told you this, we went to this little park that was near the river dorms at Rutgers, and he lived in the river dorms when he was at school, so it was like a really nice summer night, and he had this,
I think I remember this.
He had this like mesh, like, I don't know, like a basketball kind of top on or whatever. And he was playing basketball and I was watching him just like shoot baskets or whatever. And that was the first time I realized that he had some sort of health problem because he had a very big scar down his back, his whole back. And I was like, what happened to you? Why do you have that scar? And he was like, I remember vividly that he was sort of like, he didn't really want to tell me, like almost like he was afraid that if he told me that I would not like him or something. It was, I remember that distinct feeling. And he said I had a tumor in my spine and, I had surgery or whatever, but he really tried to downplay it. So anyway, he had, at that time he was 21 or whatever, but when he was like 14 or 15, he started having a lot of back pain. He was not able to sleep lying down. It was very painful. He was sleeping in a chair for like 6 months. His mother took him to the doctor, and the doctor said it's growing pains. So they just didn't realize what was going on. His mother brought him to the Dominican Republic, which is where he was born and their family's from. And that's where he was diagnosed correctly, which is kind of, surprising. But anyway, a surgeon there did the first surgery to remove the tumor, but they couldn't really get all of it, and it's a very risky surgery. And then they ended up sending him to a neurosurgeon in New York. I think you talked about this. Surgeon. He had like the top neurosurgeon in New York.
And he was a pediatric neurosurgeon, right? But he continued to do surgery on my dad when he was already past like peds age, because he was
like 30 when he did or something like that when he did.
But he was just that kind of guy, right? Like he was just a really upstanding person.
He was like featured in like different.
What was his name again?
His name was Fred Epstein. He passed away, unfortunately. He ended up getting like melanoma, and first he had a bike accident and got brain injury from it, and then he developed melanoma, and it was just so sad when we learned that he died, because he was such an important person in our lives, because he was the person that gave me like solace and hope that we're going to be okay. Because I remember the first time I was with him, so just to explain, he has had to have multiple surgeries on his back because this tumor would grow back, and they would have to, and it was benign, it was never cancer or whatever, but they would have to go in and repeat the surgery. And the first time I was with him for one of the surgeries, we went into this doctor's office. It was in Manhattan, and he was so kind and so nice. He had these like cowboy boots on with his scrubs, and he was just so sweet. And he would like hug me, and he would say, it's going to be okay. This is never going to kill him. This is not going to kill him. This is just like, it's going to be a challenge, but you're going to be fine. And it was so important for me to hear, because I was like I was not that much older than you guys, really, when you think about it. I was going through something like that. It was really scary. And the surgeries would be really long, and I'd be in the waiting room hours and hours, not knowing what's going on and stuff like that. So it was scary. But so over time, after multiple surgeries, it came to a point where it just did more and more nerve damage, because you can't keep going into the spinal cord and manipulating the spinal cord and not expect there to be damage. So in 1998, well, before that, let me back up. We got married in 1993. At that time, he had had been walking with one cane. Then it started getting even more difficult walking. So he had 2 canes during our wedding. So, and I remember feeling like so scared, like the day of our wedding, like when he would be walking, like, please don't fall, or, you know, it was a little stressful. That was in 93. And then in 98, he had a surgery because we went to see the doctor and they said, oh my gosh, you're really struggling to walk. Like, why aren't you using a wheelchair? And I remember thinking like, oh my God, they think he has to be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so they said, we're going to do surgery. Let's see if we can like clean out some scar tissue and whatever, and maybe it'll improve. Unfortunately, it did the opposite. And I think he had the surgery in September, but by November he was not able to walk anymore.
Oh, wow.
So that was November of 1998. So it's been over 20 years.
Yeah.
And Lauren has never known her dad walking.
Yeah.
You know, Evan did.
So like normal to me, him in
Yeah.
a wheelchair, like riding on his lap, like in the wheelchair when I was little
Oh,
and
that's
stuff.
so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. I thought it was like early 2000. I didn't know it was 98. So this is what played into all the fertility issues, because when like he's paralyzed and it was hard for them to have. And
Right.
yeah, but you can continue.
Yeah. So, and when Evan and Kayla recently got married, and I gave like a little toast or whatever, and I talked about Evan riding on Daddy's lap to the bus stop for kindergarten or whatever, you know, because that was just what he did all the time, you know. But sometimes he would say, you know, if he would see like a dad like with a baby and holding the kid up here, or, you know, on the shoulders or whatever, he would like talk about how he wished he could do those things and stuff like that, you know. But, you know, and so there are things that he hasn't been able to do, but he's been a stellar dad.
I feel like he's done everything. He's the best dad.
Yeah.
He like I feel like people also don't realize sometimes when they're not like close to somebody like that, or they don't know that like how much those people that are paralyzed can do. Like he drives, uses hand controls, like
he's always worked, you know, and not to disparage people who, you know, go on disability and they can't work, because sometimes it's just a thing. But for him, it was important to keep working. And, you know,
he also did like wheelchair sports.
Yeah.
He did wheelchair tennis for like years, and we would do tournaments around the country. Like we would go to like, where did we go a lot? Why can't I think of the name? It's like slipping my mind. The Amish country.
Oh, Lancaster.
Yeah. Lancaster, and like I remember all those tournaments.
Delaware, Maryland,
Florida,
you know,
right?
Florida, Baton Rouge, where I was born. You know, he traveled a lot he did basketball first, and that was you don't really remember that too much because you were little.
I mean, it is more rough.
It was
than
that was really rough. I would be like, my kids always joke around because whenever something happens, like if somebody falls, like, and it could be the most gentle fall, I gasp like really loudly. Like I'm always a gasper. Like I'm just always, I always freak out when something happens. And when they would be doing basketball, some of the guys would get flipped out of their wheelchairs onto the ground.
Yeah.
And I would just be like,
my gosh,
freaking out.
Yeah. And then they'd like push themselves back up, and you're like, oh my god. But he really has done everything in my eyes. Like I don't see him being like disabled by his disability. Like I don't, you know, like I feel like he's done everything that I would think a dad does, you know? Yeah.
You know, one thing that has happened a few times to me over the years, like throughout our like marriage or whatever, is people will say to me, wow, like you're really dedicated that you're with him, and I'm like, I would get really offended.
Yeah.
with
like
that.
why wouldn't you?
I would be like,
right?
Also, like he's your rock, you always say. And it's not like, I mean, obviously you're his rock too, but you need him as much as he needs
of
you.
Course.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I've had my own health issues, and he's, you know, and so it's just when you get married, they say, in sickness and in health, right? And if you really love somebody and they're your family and you have kids with them and they're your best friend, and that's pretty much how we are. It's just you would never think like,
you don't think twice about it, right?
Right. Yeah. It's not, you know, so I can just remember, and I'm sure it's an innocent comment when people say that, like they admire you for your like, you know, dedication to another person, but it's like, what do you think I'm gonna do?
What's the other option? Like,
right.
Also, like, he's always been super independent. Like, he really never really needed any like caretaking or help. More recently, like when things have come up in recent years in the hospital and stuff. But like, he does it all, I feel like.
Yeah, like people will come up to him if he's like in the supermarket or whatever and he's trying to get something from a shelf that he can't reach or whatever, and they'll say, do you need a hand? And he'll say yes. Like, he's not too proud to say like, yeah, can you help me? You know? But unless he really needs it, he won't ask for it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, expect it, because he's just he likes to do stuff for himself.
Yeah.
You know? So, you know, and I guess part of my upbringing, like we're talking about how you guys were raised, I was raised the same way. Like my dad had health problems a lot throughout my life, and my mother had to step up to the plate, you know, and, you know, be there for him and advocate for him. And I really learned that from her, because like there would be times where, you know, my dad would be in the hospital, and like there would be like some error with his medication, or there would just be the doctor wasn't coming, or there, you know, and my mother would be, you know, asking, but she was also very good to the nurses. Like, she'd bring them cookies.
That's like how my dad was when my mom was in the hospital.
I mean, you know, it's one thing to expect good care for your loved one, but it's also another thing to like appreciate the nurses and the good care that your loved one does get. But I've had to many times when he was in the hospital speak up for him, because he's never gonna complain,
because he's so just like he's not too nice. He's just, I mean, he is the nicest person. And he just he feels bad. Like, he doesn't want to make anyone feel like they're not doing their job or like, I don't know. Like, he just isn't.
He doesn't want them to feel bad or to, you know, he appreciates that it's a hard job and things like that. But
you are like truly his biggest like advocate. And like, I witnessed that a lot, like a couple years ago when he was in the hospital, and that was great. Yeah,
and that's how Lauren ended up deciding to become a nurse.
Yeah,
like she mentioned on one of the
yeah, definitely
but interesting.
But you also, Tarah, can relate to some of this stuff.
Yes, definitely not the same. I remember my mom, when she was telling me a little bit about you guys, and you know, this is Lauren and here's her family, and she mentioned that your dad was in a wheelchair, but she didn't know why. And so when I asked about it, I was learning about it. And then when my mom was in the wheelchair for a little bit, I was like, oh, like, this is so different. And I was like, we're going to get you out of it, because she can get out of it, right? And that's the amazing thing is, you know, there's disabilities in different ways, but people are going to be able to do different things. She hated the dang wheelchair. She was like, I can't stay in it. But I remember being like, okay, but this is part of our life for right now. Like, let's figure it out when it can happen. But yeah, you just kind of go with the flow. Like, when things happen, you take a leap of faith and hope for the best. I remember when, like, my dad is the very chill one, kind of like your dad, I'm assuming. And he's not the one with like the loud voice to advocate, but he did when this happened. It's typically my mom, it was never him, and he did when this happened. I remember a couple times where I was like, oh my gosh, like, is this my dad?
I remember you were telling me about that, because you like saw him do that in the hospital and he was never like that.
I was like, is this my dad? But no, and, you know, I think that he was a really good representation of in sickness and in health, and he's been there for her since it all happened, and really stepped up in the ways that he can.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I mean, you really do just love the person you're with, like, and that's how it has to be.
This is why, like, family, like we were talking about earlier, is so important. Also, I feel like just both of our families having these like health things come up in different ways, like, that makes you appreciate family even more.
Exactly.
Like, just growing up with a situation like that. It just shows you like how important it is to have like people in your life.
And how like fleeting life is. Like, you have to appreciate what you have, because you never know. I mean, we're lucky that this tumor was benign. And your mom's lucky that she
is here.
She's here. You know, she survived a really traumatic event, and she's doing well. You know? And so it's, but if anybody who could kind of sit back and say like, oh wow, that's you and I'm me.
Mm-hmm.
We're all gonna have something like this at some point.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. Like you're, you know, as we age, you know, stuff happens. So
yeah. And you never know what somebody else's family is going through.
That's
what
true.
I realized, because I felt like I was so in this rhythm of like, let's get to the next point of life. Let's keep moving forward and work and, you know, kind of chase those dreams. But then when this happened, I literally on the train ride home the day it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, you have no clue what anybody's going through. And it could be the norm of your family, but you really don't know how the family was affected.
Yeah.
Right? Like your family my family doesn't look like yours doesn't look like the next person's, and so on.
So I was just saying, like, you know, there's that saying that we should all be kind to each other because you really never know what somebody is going through. And, you know, I think throughout my life, there have been times I've been at work or I've been in different situations where I didn't share some of the stuff that was going on at home, and the people who were kind to me, not knowing, and they were just being kind because that's who they were. I really remember those people, you know, and
that's very true.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask, like, for the last kind of to close it out, if you have like one piece of advice, just like your biggest, maybe, I mean, no pressure, but just, you know, if you have like a piece of advice for everybody listening out there, just what you've learned in life so far.
I guess probably the biggest one that I would say, and I don't always follow this myself, to be completely honest, but I know it's important, is not to compare yourself to other people. I don't know if you guys have said that before. I feel like you might have.
My mom tells me this every day.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's perfect, and you know, you don't need to be the prettiest, the smartest, the most successful, the biggest paycheck. None of that really matters. Like, what matters is the people in your life, and
because even those people you might compare yourself to, like, they might not even have the perfect life like you might think they do.
Right.
That goes back to, you don't know what someone's going through and everything.
Right. Yeah. And in today's world with social media and everything, it always looks like somebody's life is great.
Yeah.
You know, they're taking pictures in these beautiful places and they're getting to travel and they're doing all this stuff, but that person could be going through a very, very difficult time. So,
yes.
You know, it like, I just think, like, be good to yourself and, you know, treat yourself kindly and treat other people with kindness. I mean, that's just, it's, you know, treat people like you want to be treated. It's the golden rule.
Yes.
It's cheesy, but it is the thing that I think everybody should follow if you can.
Well, thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, thank you
This was
so
a
much.
really good episode.
They
It
shared
really
a
was.
whole bunch with us, and I think it was very interesting, and the people will love it. I know I enjoyed it. It was awesome to hear another mother's perspective. I feel like I hear a lot from my own mom.
Yeah.
So it's really awesome to hear from you and hear your stories and your journey.
I'm
so
so
thank you for
glad to
sharing
be
with
here. I'm
us.
so proud of you both. This is really fun, and you guys are so cool. You're so awesome. Living in the city and having a great time and just being independent, strong women, and I'm just proud of you both. So thank you. This is fun.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and make sure you like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and just stay positive and have a great week.
Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
There's something in my glass.
Bye.